Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SAG-AFTRA podcast. I'm Duncan Crabtree-Ireland, SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator. Next-gen performers can face big challenges in building sustainable careers in the entertainment industry, creating opportunities, staying creative between gigs, practicing self-care, and advocating for themselves are just some of the crucial skills that they need to thrive. But, of course, this is easier said than done. So how can emerging performers actually take control of their careers and make meaningful progress? To share their experience and offer some practical real-world advice, I'm joined today by two next-gen performers who are making waves in the industry. Sarah Seeds is chair of SAG-AFTRA's National Next-Gen Performers Committee, a New York local SAG-AFTRA board member, and an Emmy-considered actress, writer, and producer. And Anastasia Casimos is an LA local NGP committee member, as well as a proud Greek-American actress, model, and singer with a background in improvisation and stage combat. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sarah, let me start with you, if I may. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about the Next Gen Performers Committee, what its mission is, sort of what's it all about?
So I love Next Gen. It's how I got involved into the union. It's basically about community. It's about folks in their roughly 20s, 30s who are kind of starting out in the industry. We do mixers, community outreach. We have educated seminars. We have all sorts of stuff. We do stuff through social media, social events. And we also want to make sure that we feel like we're not alone in this and we're kind of creating that community together within the SAG-AFTRA umbrella.
Yeah, it's so great. It's one of, I think, our most active committees. And I know I'm constantly seeing interchange and just all kinds of activity going on within our NGP committees, at the local and national level. So that's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Anastasia, I know you are also involved in NGP. What got you involved with the LA Locals NGP performer community?
So I joined SAG 2 months before the strike. And
you were like, perfect timing.
Right. And somebody on staff who I'm friends with was like, hey, what's your email? And I didn't ask why. And I just sent my email. And the next thing I know, I get an email that's like, congratulations, you're a strike captain. And I was like, oh, okay. I got thrown into union service. And I think it was the best thing that happened to me, experiencing my first strike and just getting to be in a community through such a pivotal moment and being around people who really care about the union and are so passionate. And I think the passion was infectious. And then committee things went out and everyone was like, oh, you are next gen, because I am in my 20s and I kind of just really fit that demographic. And so I was excited to kind of find that community that Sarah was just talking about.
That's so great. And actually, Sarah, something you said earlier kind of piqued my interest. You said, 20s and 30s. So, is there somewhat of a flexible definition of what is a next gen performer? And, how do people know if this is the right community for them to connect with?
That's a great question. And what I always say is, what are you playing? Are you playing 20s and 30s on film? That's kind of the rough thing, because we don't want to eliminate folks from participating or being activated through this, because honestly, I got thrown in as well. I have wonderful mentors such as Rebecca Damon, who kind of pulled me in when we were starting NGP. And I was in my 20s as well, now in my 30s. And it was a great way for me to get involved so quickly and be so involved and in the mix. And if you want to get involved, because it's going to benefit you endlessly, like it has done me, for sure. And I love that you've gotten involved as well, Gal. Love it.
Well, and I think it is so important for the union because, of course, this union and all unions really, they thrive on having everyone as part of the umbrella of the union. And I do think in our society and our culture, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what unions are. They don't understand how to connect with them, especially young people and people who are new in a particular career or field or industry. And so having this community there to say, welcome people in and help lift people up, I mean, that is exactly what unions are supposed to do. And it's also helping create a stronger future for our union and all of the members who are part of it.
I mean, that's the point. It's such an honor to be in the room with you folks, but also create this community, because what we do is it's a very isolating profession sometimes, especially when we're going through great upheavals or in between auditions or bookings. And it's just wonderful to find that between each other.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I know one of the things that this committee does, like a big part of what it does is actually share support, guidance, advice, let people kind of compare notes and figure out how everyone can learn from each other. And so what I'd love to do with both of you, Anastasia and Sarah, if I may, is ask you to share some advice, with the broader community who's listening to this podcast. I'm sure plenty of, potential NGP members, but as well as other actors. So I'd like to throw out a few questions or ideas and see if you can both, share your thoughts on them. And I wanted to start out with the question about sort of self-advocacy and, how important is that? And how do you build a comfort level, especially if you're new to the industry or even just new in the workplace? How do you build a comfort level with advocating for yourself, in addition to, of course, what the union and others will do for you?
I always say that a boundary is a gift. And I have to remind myself that constantly. But when you're on set or you're in these jobs or you're in spaces where you feel that you have to stand up for yourself, remember that we're in a collaborative industry. Everything we do is about collaboration, and speaking up is a gift. So for me personally, I'll give an example, is I actually have hearing aids in both my ears. And for the longest time, I wouldn't say anything. And I would just kind of struggle through hearing the notes or trying to figure out, because I didn't want to be the person who was like, oh, sorry, can you just say that again and again? And I found that actually when I was like, hey, I can't hear, people are understanding. People want to work with you. And it made everyone's life easier because nobody felt ignored when I couldn't hear them. And I got what I needed. And so I think when we kind of reframe what self-advocacy is, it kind of makes it easier to do it.
Right. That's beautiful. I love that you advocate for yourself. And in that way, you've created change and opened doors for others, and it makes others feel seen as well. So I think that's a great question too, Duncan, because self-advocacy kind of sets the tone on how we are viewed, treated on these sets, but also in life. I mean, social media is such a great example of a way to self-advocate, because what you put out is kind of what you get back as well. And if you're standing up for things, and if you're sharing things from the union, or you're advocating for causes that matter to you, and you're speaking on topics and subjects that some people might not speak for or uplift, you kind of set the tone for yourself. And even before you're called into the room or sending the self-tape, they know what you're about. And they know that not only do they have the union backing, but they know who you are as a person. And I think as artists, we have never had more self-advocacy ever, and more control over our image and what we create. And the more we self-advocate, the better quality the world is for all of us.
So it sounded like embedded in what you're saying, Sarah, is that working on behalf of and advocating for others actually helps you advocate for yourself too.
Right. And I know, Duncan, we've had a lot of experience together, in the room and without. And I think that the more I've fought for different things, or the more I've heard other folks in our NGP, especially considering we're such a diverse pool, and I'm really proud of that, with all different backgrounds and ages and genders and ethnicities, everything, that we're able to lift each other by speaking up. And I just really, really thank the folks who spoke up on my behalf as a woman, especially entering into this field. There were some things that were hard to deal with, and I know you've dealt with them. We all have. And when we uplift each other, I can feel the benefit of that, even when it comes to our content or our control of our own bodies and what we put out.
Absolutely. Now, I know one of the challenges of being an actor is that there are inevitably slowdowns in people's careers. It's not the kind of job that lends itself to an even, smooth, amount of work. It's like peaks and valleys, right? So how do you both as performers maintain that passion and that energy, especially during those downward points? What do you do to sort of keep that vibrancy alive and stay really connected to what you do?
Here's the thing. It's a slowdown period in my career, but it's not a slowdown period in my life. I think performers are more than just their careers and more than just the art they put out or dreaming of putting out or whatever it is. And personally, for me, I remind myself that I am a multifaceted human. I have other identities that I lean into. I'm a great friend. I have great family that I'm very close to. I like to travel. I really like this yoga studio that I go to. Whatever it is, and you just lean into these other things that make you you. I think the passion for the art doesn't really leave, because the thing that drives that is being a fully fledged human anyway. And there's so many other things going on in the world at all times, and I think kind of zooming out of it a little bit and seeing your life for what it is, and it's your entire identity is not just, am I auditioning and am I booking? Do people watching the things I'm putting out like me? Do my friends think I'm good? And really, it's not about any of that. And just taking a step back and saying, like, I'm a human with many qualities, and that's okay.
So kind of a balance is, maybe you can use those periods as a way to help balance your life. Wow. I mean, I'm going to bet that can be hard to do for some people, right? Especially if if your career is in an industry where other people have so much impact on what your opportunities are and how those opportunities play out, because it is a collaborative medium, like you both said. How do you do that? How do you find the wherewithal to really...
I mean, it is tough, but I actually do this thing. It's like a mindset trick for me that will not work for everyone, but I tell myself it's not that serious. Because if you walk in every audition thinking about all of your dreams and your self-worth and the monetary aspect of the job and just casting like me, and every single thing that you judge your value off of is in that room, there's no room for joy anymore. And then it's not sustainable or fun. And so I really go into everything with, it's not that serious. Even the next gen meetings that we do, when we're like, okay, what about this title of this project that we're doing, and it's not that serious. And it doesn't mean that it's not important. It just means that it's okay to have joy in the space too, and take a breath with it. And for me, that phrase just really works. For some reason, it just clicks in my head. It's not that serious. But for some people, saying it's not that serious is probably really triggering. So you kind of have to find your own thing that works for you, but kind of brings back the levity and the breath in the room.
Right.
I think that's how I find balance.
Sarah, how does that play out for you in your life experience?
Well, I mean, to answer the first question and go into this, because beautifully answered, by the way, and I co-sign everything you're saying. I love that it's not that serious. We're not doing brain surgery. No one's going to, we're going to be okay. We're making art. Everything's going to be okay.
Although what are brain surgeons supposed to do, by the way, then? Because
I don't know. I'm not one.
They also need to find this
one.
balance. You know what I mean?
They need to remind themselves that we are on a spinning globe, okay? Yep. And they're going to be okay too.
Okay.
Take a breath, I guess
We're
is
trained.
What I would say.
Okay.
Yeah,
take a deep breath.
Deep breath. Yeah, to answer the first question too, is I always lean into my creativity, not just as an actor, because I'm a creative being. It does bleed into everything of my life. Yes, I am separate than all of that, but every day I'm thinking of creative ideas or wanting to see a friend and collaborate on an idea. Or to me, creating my show and then selling it in 2020 during lockdown is what got me through the pandemic. So that's another revenue stream there. But that was out of frustration and being on sets and feeling wow, has anyone ever met a woman in their life? Why am I reading this script? And how did they get 3 million for this? What am I doing, dude? And I was I have to make my own stuff because I want to make funny, interesting, quirky women and other folks on the screen and kind of see my vision up there, and not just as an actor, but as a creator. And I know acting is creating, and it really can be, and it does fulfill me, but it's something beautiful about creating the whole thing. So to me, it's writing. To me, it's creation. Even in the mornings, sometimes I do this almost every day. Shout out to The Artist's Way.
I love The Artist's Way.
I love The Artist's Way. Yes, shout out.
What's The Artist's Way?
Oh my God. Okay, so The Artist's Way is a magical book that is like a 6-week or 12-week rather journey where every morning you're doing stream of consciousness, 3 pages, morning pages, kind of getting all the gunk out of your brain. You don't reread it. You just let it come off into the page, and it's so invigorating. And then you go on an artist date with yourself every week. And I've started doing this a lot. I know. And there were times during the pandemic, me sitting in my apartment in New York City, everything's locked down. I can only just go up to the roof, and I would put just a picnic blanket out, turn on Netflix, and just like watch Netflix and have a picnic and some wine and be like, this is my artist date, and it kept me going. And so to then answer your question about how we stay, okay and centered. And I think it's really checking in with yourself, being around people that make you happy and bring you joy and uplift you, not being surrounded by like energy sucking vampires, and just,
Yes.
and being like, you know what, you're a beautiful person. I'm here too. And we're here to uplift each other, and like drinking well, eating well, getting good rest. And I love meditation and breath work as well. That's something that's very important to me. And yoga. We love yoga. We love that.
I put all my serious thoughts in my morning pages. All the things that are like really serious. I'm like, oh, so you do have them. They just can't consume you.
No, and sometimes they're unhinged, and sometimes they're gobbledygook.
But you got it out, and that's the important thing.
But my anxiety is so creative. Like, that's maybe where it's like, I'm just totally a creative being, because you see all the crazy thoughts you have, and you're like, I mean, this should be a script.
Speaking of anxiety and creativity and balance, speaking of these three random topics,
Love.
One part of this is in finding all this balance, you probably also have to make a living, unless you're lucky enough to, be in a trust fund situation or something like that. How does that impact? Like, how do you pursue artistry? You were just talking about the artist way. How does that like interface with or sync up with the reality of got to put food on the table, gotta make a living?
Right. I think when I was first starting out, I didn't realize I didn't have to struggle. It's like a mindset. It's like, I don't have to do things I don't want to do all the time to just have this one opportunity to be an actor today. I think that what's helped me is, as I've gone through life, I don't really do a day job. I just have multiple revenue streams that are majority creative, whether it's coaching someone as a producer, as a creator, whether it's writing something, whether it's voiceover, whether it's getting revenue from a show that I got distribution, whether it's collaborating with folks I'm going to be the writer talent, you're going to be the camera op, and we're going to make this thing, and we're going to see where it goes, and it might give us some revenue. Also, there's so many avenues now with the influencer agreement to have revenue on your social media and to do talks. I just think with a community like NGP, there's so many people doing many beautiful things that are money making, but are also creative. So to me, it's multiple revenue streams. And when you do get money from a job, investing that money so you have passive income as well accruing.
I mean, and it feels like that's not something that, especially the part about sort of financially planning to have a stream of income. I mean, it's one of the things we fight for in the union all the time is residuals and other kinds of ongoing payments for use, because it helps people have a sustainable career. Even if it's wonderful to get a lot of money at one moment all up front or whatever, there's also a real benefit to having payments that last over time so that you can actually have that steady flow of sustainability, in your life. No one teaches that. There's no school that necessarily teaches you in your life that that's something to aspire to.
No, and also gig working is wonderful, because what I love about that sometimes is that we can work on other parts of the set. Like, I'll be producing something in South Africa next month. And it's just, I normally wouldn't say yes to something like that years ago, but now that I love being in all facets of set work, I feel like I learned so much more being on the other side of the camera, so I can do better in front of the camera, because you have that empathy for everyone around you and you know exactly what they're going through. So that's helped me too, is working on sets, possibly not as an actor, but just to get the feel of what it's like to be on the other side.
So Anastasia, I know one of the things that NGP does help people do is learn how to improve their skills at networking and sort of helping NGP members figure out how to build that professional network. I'm assuming that's also an important thing to do alongside building, sustainability in your economic life, so that you can use that network to help find new opportunities and to maybe create opportunities where they just don't currently exist. How does NGP sort of help people learn that networking or build that networking muscle?
Yeah. I mean, I think NGP specifically, especially LA Local, which I can speak to, I mean, we have events all the time. We've been especially ramping up this year. It's a very ambitious group. And so we do a lot of panels, and we also do a lot of social mixers and things. And the best advice I can give is just say yes to things like that. Just go. You don't need a buddy. There's going to be buddies there. You can make your friends. Like, I think a lot of people, especially early mid-20s when you're like new to LA, because a lot of people are transfers to LA, right? Everyone's afraid of going somewhere alone. But you don't overcome that unless you do it kind of over and over and over. And I think the best thing I can say is like those spaces are created for you by people like you so that you can take advantage of them. So feel the fear and do it anyway. The cool thing about SAG in general and NGP, but SAG in general, is there really are so many resources, opportunities, things to learn about. I mean, we just did a panel on financial literacy, and that was so interesting and cool. And the cool thing about SAG is it's a great way to learn how to resource yourself out. So to me, that means I don't have the answer, but I can find someone who does. And I think that's a great way to think about your network in general, even when you're looking at side hustles, day jobs. How do I produce this thing? How do I direct this thing? How do I learn, all the stuff behind camera, whatever. It's going to be in your network. And if you think about it, of resourcing yourself out, it kind of takes the burden off of like, I have to do this career alone, all by myself. When in reality, we all have different skills and we all have different abilities, and we're all in this cool thing together.
I had an NGPer tell me that, why aren't you just making pitch decks? Because I was pitching a lot out in LA. I was having other people make them, but then I started to make them. And then during lockdown, they were like, why don't you just like make pitch decks for people's ideas? So when we get back up and running, they can sell their idea. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. If I hadn't met you at NGP, I would have been like, huh? So like, that's what I mean. It's like a brainstorm too. It's not even like just networking. It's like, I'm getting ideas from other people that know me that are like, hey, why don't you do that? And I know I've done the same for them. Like, why aren't you making this album, girl? Why aren't you going out there and making that jacket bedazzled, babes? Like, why aren't you doing this?
Last week, someone told me I should cater my baklava out to.
I will tell
to the
you
greater
that.
Los Angeles area because of a next gen panel that I brought it to. Like, people really see other things about you that you don't see. I think,
Exactly.
is actually what it is.
Well, so I wonder, can you think of social media and that piece as sort of an extension of your networking activity? I mean, I know a lot of people talk about social media as marketing, and I know it is marketing, but maybe for folks, especially, frankly, artistic folks who, at least in my experience chatting with folks, a lot of folks don't want to think of themselves like a product to be marketed. So I'm wondering if social media can be an extension of that, and how do you, sort of navigate your own social media networking / marketing life?
If I'm being very honest, I am not a big social media as marketing person, even if I know it's important. I think that's my little pitfall, that I could probably resource myself out better and find somebody who does understand social media. See what I did there. But I do think the cool thing about social media is it is another resource, right? And I remember, especially during the strikes, we did this event at Sony where it was like wrap the lot, and we wanted as many people to come and be able to like make a whole circle around the lot, because Sony was smaller in terms of numbers, but like a mile around. And it was all through Instagram that people found out about this event.
I love that, because again, it's collaborative. Like, it's like I can do like an ask me, thing on my Instagram. And I remember when the contract came out and there was a lot of misinformation and I just couldn't take it. But I was like, what are your questions? So I can address them on Instagram or direct you to somewhere where the answers are. So I think one of the videos I did discussing the contract was like thousands and thousands of views. And I think it was only because I was able to take the time to do that outreach, to film it, to edit it, to put it on my social. So I wasn't speaking for the union, but I was speaking on my understanding of it and advocating. And it felt so much less, I don't have to really like censor myself. I'm just telling you like it is and what I know. And I think that's been incredible. And honestly, it is a marketing tool for me. Like, especially, I don't want to prop one certain platform up, but like, she's an Instagram girly. And so what I love about that in particular is it feels almost like a portfolio. Like in my highlight reels, I have acting, creating, traveling. I love traveling, by the way. So like, we have that in common. Love that for you. Love that for me. And like, I think it's a way for people to get to know me without having to like be directly in my vicinity. And also it's like a way to know who I am. What do I support? What's my brand? What advocacy do I have? And it's honestly gotten me not only work, but it's gotten me like connected with folks who are like-minded, who want to do more. And again, it, like you said, it's a great way to like ask questions and interact with each other. And I think it's really effective. It's gotten me a lot. I think it's really helped me.
And I think something I want to add to about asking questions, just in general, outside social media, not social media, I just want to say that please ask the question, because somebody else has the same question, especially within the scope of the union. You know, when we talk about insurance or the pension plan, all these things, ask the question. Someone can teach you, and you pay $3,000 to join this union as of right now, and then you pay your dues every 6 months, and you have the right to get your questions answered. So don't do a disservice to yourself by not asking
Always ask questions. Yes.
100%. You know, and it's funny because like a cultural conversation there has been about all the negative elements of social media. Obviously, there's toxicity. There's a lot of harm that can come, especially to young people. And we're here talking about NGP, you know, out of social media and obviously to our political system. But I think it's only fair to also acknowledge some of the pluses, which you've just mentioned. And no doubt about it, during our strike last year and our strike this year, actually, in the video game strike, social media has provided a really important place for people to express themselves. And it also provides a place for us as a union to put out messages that aren't filtered by news media, by third-party sort of interlocutors. We can actually speak directly, both as the union and as individual members of the union together. So, you know, one of the positive elements of that is that community building, is that unfiltered communication. And so long as social media is going to exist and we're going to all deal with the negative consequences of it, we might as well take advantage of the positive consequences, whether that is helping build your network, whether that is helping the union build upon our fights to help, you know, improve the world for our members and everyone, actually, even folks outside of our membership. So I think I'm glad that you all mentioned that, because I think that is really, it's an important piece of the bigger picture.
Yes.
In all honesty. So Sarah, this is your chance. Plug NGP. What's coming up? How can members get involved? And Anastasia, you too. Anything that you want to say about NGP or what folks listening to this should know?
So a lot of our locals, I know I'm the co-chair of the New York chapter of NGP, and so I can speak on that the most. You can reach out to our local at newyork@sagaftra.org. You can also look on the website or check out social media. We always have things updated there and events. You can also look at all your locals. If you go to the sagaftra.org website, you can look at events, and particularly NGP. Many of the locals have their own NGP. I'm also the chair of the national NGP, and it's kind of the umbrella where we can say, where can we organize in these locals? Where can we uptake more events, or like what is this local needing? So I suggest like doing research and checking out each local, whether it's through the website or calling or social media, and getting an idea on how to get involved and to be activated. Because honestly, you guys, like, if I hadn't joined NGP, I don't think I would have made a TV pilot with our contract that would have gotten picked up. I don't think I would be in the Television Academy. I definitely wouldn't be on the board, and I definitely wouldn't have all these things that I have and all these beautiful people that I know and wonderful collaborators and activists and so intelligent, wonderful, grounded people if I didn't get involved in NGP. And that was my kind of my gateway into the union. So I can't express it more to get involved. If you lie within that age range or you play that age range, you should absolutely get involved with NGP. Or even if you don't, reach out to the folks that are, and they can direct you to better channels for you to use. Highly recommend.
I mean, LA Local, we are doing events and panels all the time. So same thing. Look at the calendar. Reach out to people. Again, like I said, resource yourself out, because people love it. People love it when you ask them to talk about things that they know or love.
Tell me more, Anastasia, about that.
Right?
No, I do. You're so right. Something you said earlier, reminded me of that sort of adage about how to do improv, which is just to say yes to everything. And like good improv results from, instead of ever saying no, always saying yes and, right? And I think it really feels like that's kind of the vibe of what you're talking about with NGP, which is bringing people from where they are and sort of helping them say yes and in their career, in their networking, and what they're, and sort of having that help take your career to that next level as part of a balanced life. I really appreciate that. And I want to just say thank you to both of you for being part of our podcast today, because I have no doubt that there will be plenty of folks who hear this, and it will encourage them to go to sagaftra.org, where they can find info about the NGP activities in LA, New York, and all around the country, and all the different locals. Our locals all have Facebook pages now, so they can go and check the local Facebook page and see about upcoming events, et cetera, and like you said, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's in an in-person event, whether it's a connection through the website and then following up with things, all of these ways are ways that y'all can all connect with each other and help uplift each other in your choice of career, which is, I'm sure, incredibly rewarding, requires deep passion, but it's also hugely challenging. And so doing it together, I'm sure, makes that so much better.
100%. Well said, Duncan, and you're an icon and a legend. Thank you.
Oh. Well, that is very kind. I'm gonna make a little recording of that, and then that'll be my strategy for when I get down. I'm gonna play that recording of that. Well, again, thank you so much, Anastasia Casimos and Sarah Seeds, both part of NGP. Everyone who's listening to this podcast know how they can either connect with as part of NGP, or even if you're not part of NGP, hopefully you gain something from these experiences and can use it to help build on your own journey as a performer, broadcaster, recording artist, anywhere within the SAG-AFTRA world. So thanks again to everyone for listening to the SAG-AFTRA podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
The SAG-AFTRA podcast is produced and edited by Aaron Goddard and John Small. Supervising producers are Pamela Greenwald, Shira Reich, and Mike McNulty, with production and marketing support from Damon Romine, Jalika Conte, Delaney Howard, Margot Giordano, Joe Malgado, and May Wang. I'm Duncan Crabtree Ireland. See you at the next SAG-AFTRA podcast.